When people talk about how one moment can change your life, they're probably talking about my life. It's astonishing how a tiny piece of paper I found in my wife's purse turned everything upside down for me. I'm a 37-year-old man, and I married my college sweetheart, Tina, 37-year-old female, a decade ago. We've known each other for a total of 16 years, having dated for 6 years before tying the knot. She was not just my college mate, she was my soulmate. About a month ago, Tina's friend had a lavish wedding in Las Vegas. I was invited but had urgent work commitments that week, so I couldn't attend. The wedding was a grand affair, spanning a whole week. When Tina returned home, she seemed unusually quiet. I asked her if everything was all right, and she claimed she was just tired from all the wedding festivities. That explanation seemed plausible to me, so I gave her space. However, things took a worrying turn when Tina started acting distant. She not only became quiet, but also seemed irritated around me. Our conversations became strained, and our bed life vanished. Whenever I tried to initiate any affection, she snapped at me, saying she wasn't in the mood. It's been nearly a month since she returned from the wedding, and we haven't shared an intimate moment. Adding to my concerns, I discovered something in her bag yesterday that left me anxious: a hospital bill. Tina had undergone an STD test the day after she returned from the wedding. It struck me as odd. Why would she do that? And why didn't she inform me? It's an obvious red flag, and while I love her deeply, I'm not naive enough to ignore such a significant warning sign. I haven't talked to her about what I found yet, but before I do, I want to gather all the facts about the STD test. I don't want to confront her without having all the information. I value my marriage and my relationship with Tina, and I don't want to ruin it on impulse. I did a lot of research on this topic, and in the process, I came across a page where many people shared stories about discovering their partners secretly taking STD tests, often because of cheating. That's why I'm here, to share my story and get some insight. I admit feeling guilty about this, but a few days ago, I went through Tina's phone without her knowledge. I checked all her messages and call logs, but I didn't find anything suspicious. It was all clean. I even looked at her social media accounts, and those were clean too. I'm not sure if I should feel bad for doubting her, or if I should feel reassured that I'm staying vigilant. I thought about reaching out to the friends who attended the wedding with Tina to see if anything unusual happened. But it was Tina's school friend's wedding, so none of our college friends were there. While I'm friends with her school friend, I'm not close enough to ask questions without Tina finding out. This situation feels strange, because in the last 10 years we've been together, Tina has never given me a reason to doubt her. We've always been open and honest with each other. I forgot to mention that the bill showed she scheduled the appointment the day after returning from the trip. However, the test date mentioned was yesterday, and the report date is a week later. Tina's behavior had been worrying me since she got back from the trip. I checked her phone a few days ago, but found nothing. Yesterday when she came home, after the test, she seemed very tired and tense. It raised suspicion when she carefully stashed her bag in the wardrobe. Normally, she leaves it on the table or the couch. I acted like I didn't notice, but kept a close eye on her every move. When she went to the bathroom to shower, I checked her purse and found the hospital bill for an STD test. Update 1. Hi everyone. I realized I didn't provide any background information about Tina and me after reading the comments on my post. I didn't think it was relevant initially. However, I've responded to some of you in the comments, but for general information, here are a few details. Tina and I graduated from the same college. We're both software engineers working for different IT companies. We have a 6-year-old son. Financially, we've had a stable and decent life. We were a happy family until now when Tina decided to mess everything up. After discovering the medical bill for an STD test in Tina's purse, I couldn't rest easy. The comments on my previous post, along with stories from other victims, all pointed to one thing. Tina cheated on me. Initially, I wanted to wait for the test results before confronting her, but it became unbearable. Tina noticed I was acting differently too. On the day I made the post, she even asked if everything was okay. I just nodded and put on a fake smile. She probably thought I was reacting to her rude behavior. So the day after my last post, we sat down at the dinner table. As we began to eat, Tina asked me again if I was okay. I nodded and said yes, but after a while I couldn't hold back and asked, "How did your STD test go?" She looked shocked. I repeated, Yeah, the STD test you took a few days ago. She turned pale and asked how I found out. I told her it didn't matter. Then she came out with the classic line, "I can explain." I stared at her and told her to go ahead and explain. She sighed, took a deep breath, and I patiently kept looking at her. She started crying. When she began to sob, my heart sank. I realized my suspicions were correct. Tina held my hand and asked me to trust her. I said I could trust her if she told me everything. Instead of talking, she moved her chair closer to me, leaned on my shoulder, gripped my arms tightly, and cried. I let her emotions flow. In our 16 years together, I had never let her cry alone. Even at the slightest sign of tears, I would comfort her with a hug. But this time I sat there unmoved. She tried to get closer, holding onto my arms tightly, but I didn't hug her back. I remained as cold as ice. When she finished crying, she let go of my arms and confessed everything. It happened during her friend's bachelorette trip. In the week-long wedding celebrations, the first 2 days were a bachelorette trip to Vegas. The event manager had arranged for dancers, male escorts, and more. I learned many new terms that day that I had never heard before. She told me that the bride and her other friends had indulged in all these services from the very beginning of day one. But Tina had resisted. Her friends pressured her, but she held back. She saw the bride and her friends having a wild time, fulfilling their fantasies with these escorts, but she refrained. I used to trust her as she had never been a liar, but this time it was difficult for me to fully believe her story. I asked her if she did it because she felt out of place. She explained that her friend convinced her that in the 16 years we'd been together, she hadn't been with any other man, so she needed to try something new. Her friends went on about how these escorts had special techniques for unique pleasures. Tina resisted, but her friend pushed her to accept an explicit massage. If you know what I mean. Tina eventually gave in to the peer pressure and agreed to the massage. She believed that a massage might not be considered cheating and could help her avoid the peer pressure. But the masseur turned out to be an escort. After the back massage, he began undressing her. She resisted, but he insisted it was part of the explicit massage, so she reluctantly undressed. She confessed to losing control during the massage and cheating on me. But that wasn't the end of it. When Tina shared her experience with her friends, they cheered her on and encouraged her to explore further. They promised her complete confidentiality, ensuring that I would never find out. Tina felt that since she had already cheated on me once, there was no point in resisting further. She decided to delve deeper into her fantasy. I appreciated her honesty, even though I knew I couldn't forgive her, not even for a single act of betrayal. I just sat there, lifeless, trying to process what Tina had revealed. I knew my life was about to change. The woman in front of me was the love of my life, which made her betrayal all the more painful. Tina nudged me to say something as I hadn't spoken a word since her confession. I buried my face in my hands. She tried to hold my hand and lift my face, but I resisted. Finally, when I looked at her, I told her I was going to file for divorce. She was shocked and said I shouldn't make an impulsive decision because we have a son. I vowed at her to stop pretending to care about our son and our family. If she truly cared, she wouldn't have done what she did. I grabbed my car keys and left the house, brushing off her attempts to follow me. I drove to my friend's place, where he lived alone due to his recent divorce, which is another story in itself. I had a drinking binge until I passed out. The next morning, I called in sick at work while my friend went to the office. I lounged on his couch, searching for divorce lawyers. I stumbled upon a lawyer who happened to be my junior in school and was on my Instagram account. So I sent him a message and he replied within a couple of hours. I asked if we could have a call. He sensed the urgency in my messages and phoned me back within 30 minutes. His next available appointment was about 4 days away, but since we knew each other, he suggested meeting in the evening after work for a drink. I agreed without hesitation. So one evening, Tina confessed to her cheating, and the next evening, I was with my lawyer discussing my divorce. He advised me to sleep on my decision to see if my emotions subsided, but I chose to give her a chance. I assured him that I was making this decision mindfully. I shared my divorce terms, and he promised to start the paperwork right away. I asked him to expedite the process because I wanted to get through it as quickly as possible. To anyone listening, it might have seemed like an impulsive decision, but it wasn't. I love Tina, but I value my self-respect even more. I explained that I trusted Tina with my life, so if I was making this choice, it was indeed a serious one. I couldn't let her off the hook for her cheating. The following day, I returned home in the afternoon, thinking she would be at work, but she was actually at home. Her demeanor had changed drastically in just the past few days. When she saw me, she rushed toward me, attempting to hug me, and asked where I had been for the last 2 days and why I hadn't responded to her calls and messages. I wanted to push her away, but she appeared so frail and distraught that I couldn't. I allowed her to hug me, but I didn't reciprocate. I stood rigid. She kept apologizing, but I remained unmoved. She gently held my face with her palms and urged me to speak, saying that my silence was unbearable for her. I inquired about our son's whereabouts, and she told me she had taken him to my parents' house for a few days. I managed to free myself, retreated to my room, and locked the door. If I had let her in, she wouldn't have allowed me to pack. So, I hastily gathered some of my clothes, my laptop, tablets, and essential items, and left the house while she was in the kitchen. She followed me outside, attempting to stop me, but I didn't look back and drove away. I checked into a hotel and then went to my parents' house to see my son. I wanted to confide in them, but I resisted because I had something else on my mind. It's been almost a week now, and I'm working from the hotel. I got permission to work remotely for this month. Tina has made numerous attempts to contact me through various means. Calls, texts, voicemails, showing up at my workplace, visiting my friend's place, and even local bars and restaurants I frequent. Today, one of our mutual friends called me and asked if I was okay. He mentioned that Tina had been searching for me all over the city. I asked him if she had told him the reason, and he said that whoever asked, Tina had been explaining that I left the house after a heated argument about something. I assured him that I was safe, but needed some time to cool off. A few hours ago, I phoned my lawyer to check on the status of the divorce papers. He informed me that they would be shipped to me in the next few days, so I'm currently waiting for their arrival. I'll provide an update once I've resolved this matter. Update 2. It's taken me a bit of time to post this update, but I wanted to sort out everything before doing so. This will be my final update. So, after 10 days from the D-Day, the divorce papers finally arrived on a Saturday. The following morning, I went back to my house, and the situation remained unchanged. Tina was lying lifelessly on the couch, while my son played in the living room. He ran to me and hugged me as if we hadn't seen each other in a week. This time, Tina remained rigid. She didn't hug me back. Instead, she gave me a cold, distant stare. I played with my son for a few minutes and then left him to play on his own while I took a seat in a nearby chair. Tina glanced at me with a serious expression and inquired about what I wanted. I responded to her question with a smirk but remained silent. She then asked if there was anything she could do to make things better, to which I still didn't offer a reply. After some time, she began to speak, saying, "Look, I understand that I've hurt you and messed everything up, and I feel guilty about it. I acknowledge that what I did was a serious mistake. But you also need to understand that I could have avoided the STD test, and you would never have found out. I took the test for your safety and abstained from closeness to protect you. I love you, and I'm truly sorry for what I did. You should also recognize that I honestly confessed the truth when I could have easily lied. So instead of running away from this situation, we should work together to resolve it. Please tell me if there's anything I can do to make this right." I finally broke my silence and responded with a simple yes. I told her that she needed to confess her infidelity in front of both our parents. She gave me a stern look, and I challenged her, saying, "Can't do it, can you?" She took a deep breath and agreed that if it would make me happy and help resolve things, she was willing to give it a try. I instructed her to go ahead and invite our parents for the evening. After staring at me for a couple of minutes and seeing the determination in my eyes, she grabbed her phone and called both sets of parents one by one, inviting them to join us later that evening. After the calls, she looked at me with a defeated expression. I decided to take a shower and was browsing on my iPad when she entered the room and mentioned that she had prepared lunch for us. I wanted to avoid it, but deep down I knew it might be our last meal together as a family. So I joined her at the table. She served us, and we all ate together. It was hard to ignore the sadness on my son's face, realizing that this might be one of the last times he shared a meal with both his parents. I understand that some may label me as egotistical or chauvinistic for ending our seemingly happy family over one mistake by Tina. However, I don't care about others' opinions. I believe that when my son grows up, he will appreciate that I chose my self-respect over my love and emotions. It's crucial for a child to grow up with parents who may live apart but are happy, rather than with frustrated parents trapped in a broken marriage. Our marriage had crumbled the moment Tina was unfaithful. After we had lunch, Tina took our son to his room for his afternoon nap. Once she had put him to sleep, she returned to our bedroom, and I was busy scrolling through my phone. She made a move to touch me, but I stopped her and asked if her STD test results had come in. She assured me that she had a clean bill of health and began to get intimate with me again. Knowing it might be our last time, I gave in, and it turned out to be the most exciting and passionate encounter we'd had in a long while. Afterward, I was overwhelmed with guilt and sadness, but also a strange sense of satisfaction from being with her. She was the only woman I had been with for the past 16 years, and I loved her deeply. It tore me apart to think about pushing her away forever. I also regretted our intimate moment because it might have given her false hope of reconciliation. She fell asleep in my arms as if she hadn't slept well in many nights. I gazed at her face, wondering how our relationship had come to this point. I must have drifted off while still watching her, and we woke up when our son knocked on the door. I let him in, and we played together on the bed, creating a brief moment of joy. During that time, I briefly considered reconsidering my decision and giving our marriage another chance. But I pushed that thought aside and got out of bed. It was already evening, and I went to the living room to wait for our parents and in-laws to arrive. Once everyone had settled down, Tina called me into the kitchen and looked into my eyes intently, asking if I truly wanted to go through with this. I affirmed my decision. She then went outside and informed everyone that she needed to make a confession. She told them that she had been unfaithful to me at her friend's wedding, but emphasized that it didn't mean anything. She loved me and would do anything for our relationship. She went on to explain that she had already confessed this to me and that I wanted her to tell everyone as well. It all happened so quickly that my parents initially thought it was some kind of joke. I clarified that it was not a prank and added that she had confessed when I discovered the STD test bill in her purse. Her parents looked down, clearly embarrassed and angry. My parents, on the other hand, seemed disappointed, but remained silent. I announced that I had something important to share as well. I had filed for divorce. I took out the divorce papers and began going over the terms. Tina attempted to interrupt, but I kept going. I agreed to give her the house where she and our son could live, and I would find a new place. We'd share joint custody of our son, and I'd contribute to child support. After reading through it, I passed the papers to her. She shot me a disdainful look and accused me of manipulating her into this situation. After a quick glance at the papers, she signed without hesitation. Her parents left immediately, without uttering a word. My parents also departed, asking if I wanted to stay with them for a while before leaving. I nodded and said I'd consider it. Tina locked herself in our son's room, feeling not only embarrassed in front of both sets of parents, but also defeated, as all her confessions and humiliations seemed in vain. I packed the rest of my belongings and left the house. I wanted to see my son, but I knew Tina wouldn't allow it. That's why she locked herself in his room. After that evening, Tina didn't reach out with any calls or texts. About 45 days later, we appeared in court, and our divorce was settled amicably, with neither of us contesting the terms. We didn't exchange a word and parted ways once it was finalized. It's been over a week since the divorce was settled. I've been occupied with finding a new place and settling in. Our paths might cross because of our son, but it will be purely transactional. I still feel empty and frustrated because I know I've hurt and humiliated her as well. Perhaps we both got what we deserved.
All right, that was a fun story. Now let's move on to another exciting one. Stay tuned and let's dive in.
Story 2. Hey folks, I'm a 28-year-old guy. Around 3 weeks ago, I found out that my wife, Rose, 27 years old, whom I've been married to for less than a year, had been cheating on me. When Rose and I began dating, she shared that she had recently ended a 3-year relationship with her ex-boyfriend and was currently single. I was also single at that time and hadn't dated for 2 years because my previous relationship had left me emotionally scarred. Given our shared experiences of past relationship pain, Rose and I made a promise never to cheat or do anything to hurt each other. I knew I would keep my end of the promise and hoped Rose would do the same. We dated for 2 years and a few months before tying the knot. Being with Rose brought me more happiness than any of my previous relationships. She had a natural talent for humor and could always bring a smile to those around her. The initial months of our marriage were filled with laughter and enjoyment. I eagerly anticipated spending time with her. While Rose worked as a social media influencer and ran her online store, I had a job as a data analyst at a large tech company in our town. I'll admit there were days when my job became demanding and I couldn't spend as much time with Rose as we had promised. In a month, I might miss our dates twice due to being overwhelmed with work tasks or simply forgetting about a social event we were supposed to attend together. Whenever this occurred, I tried to make it up to her, which usually resolved the issue. Her favorite treat was Snickers, and gifting her a box or a few bars always brought a smile to her face. 6 months after our wedding, my company allowed me to work remotely for 3 weeks and spend 1 week on site. I was thrilled about this change because it meant I could finally spend more time with Rose. Her work as a social media influencer allowed her to work remotely as well. She was delighted when I told her about my new work schedule, and things started getting back on track for us. During the first 4 weeks of working remotely, I began to notice something unusual about Rose. It was common for her, as an influencer, to be frequently on her phone, but there was something more to it. Whenever I got close to her while she was on her phone, I noticed she would hastily switch between apps whenever I approached. Even when I wasn't right next to her, I could infer her actions from her body language and finger movements. Additionally, she started to act discreetly with her laptop. Whenever she heard my voice or saw me coming her way, she would promptly close her laptop and pretend not to be using it. These occurrences happened swiftly, but she remained unaware that I was observing her. One day, my frustration reached its limit, and I decided to confront her about it. She brushed off my concerns, claiming that I was being paranoid and that she had nothing to hide. On that particular day, she was working on her laptop and even invited me to take a look to ease my suspicions. I complied, but I found nothing suspicious. She even shared her conversations from all her social media accounts, which were strictly related to work. Throughout the 2 years and some months we had been together, this was the first time she willingly allowed me to review her chats. While we were dating, we had mutual access to each other's phones, although I never felt the need to inspect her client chats as I considered them confidential. I trusted her completely. However, her uncharacteristic willingness to show me her laptop activities and phone conversations raised red flags for me. Maybe she believed she could divert my attention by revealing the conversation she wanted me to see. But I wasn't deceived. I had a keen sense for when someone was acting suspicious. And with all the stories I had encountered here on Reddit, I couldn't ignore the gut feeling that Rose was concealing something from me. I chose to hold off on addressing her secretive behavior with her phone and laptop, opting instead to continue monitoring her actions to ensure I wasn't making baseless accusations before taking any further steps. A few days following our confrontation, Rose decided to host a small gathering with some of her influencer friends at our place. We all had a wonderful time together, but I couldn't help but notice that Rose seemed a bit preoccupied. Even as we enjoyed our meals, shared laughs, and had a pleasant time, she frequently busied herself with texting someone in between. It occurred so often that even her friends began to take notice. Eventually, one of them felt compelled to inquire about the person she was constantly texting. Upon realizing that all eyes were on her, Rose placed her phone on the table, put on a feigned smile, and explained that it was work-related and that she was finished. No one pressed the matter further, and we continued with our meal. After the guests left and we began tidying up, Rose broached the subject of the client she had been messaging throughout the evening. She mentioned that the client had proposed a year-long collaboration as a brand ambassador for a skincare product. Now, ordinarily, such a conversation would be entirely normal for a married couple to have. However, for us, it felt unusual because Rose rarely discussed her clients or their specific requests. In our respective professions, she tended to her work and I tended to mine. Thus, her initiation of this topic struck me as peculiar. It almost seemed as if she was attempting to provide an explanation for her behavior before I could question her about it. I didn't say much in response. I merely offered a smile and pretended to participate in the conversation. However, my mind was already racing with countless thoughts. While I suspected that I wouldn't find any evidence of infidelity on her phone or laptop, I conceived the idea of eavesdropping on her conversations. There was an app that allowed you to monitor someone else's phone activity, listen in on their calls, and read their messages. To achieve this, I needed to install the app on both my phone and hers. This way, I could listen to her phone calls and review her messages with others. The reason I was so anxious to discover if Rose was being unfaithful, even though her behavior and attitude remained unchanged, stemmed from my past relationship where I had been cheated on. Despite expressing my love for Rose and my belief in her fidelity, a part of me remained vigilant for any signs of infidelity. I scrutinized everything, even the mundane, as I didn't want to overlook potential warning signals as I had in my previous relationship. Once I had successfully installed the app on both of our phones, I initiated my investigation. Indeed, Rose regularly communicated with her clients. However, there was another individual she exchanged messages with daily, and she took care not to call him or answer his calls whenever I was at home or we were together. 2 days after I had paired my phone with Rose's, she spoke with this person for the first time. What made it intriguing was that she had known him for years. He happened to be the same ex-boyfriend she had mentioned breaking up with. Upon listening to their conversations for the first time, it became evident that this individual was aware of Rose's marital status and my remote working situation. On that particular evening, Rose asked me to step out and purchase some groceries because she claimed to have forgotten to pick them up. While I was en route to the store, their conversation took place. He inquired about my whereabouts, and Rose informed him that I had left to buy groceries. She also confessed that she had purposely pretended to forget the groceries on her way back, intending for me to retrieve them, thus affording them more time to talk on the phone. He kindly cautioned her to be discreet so as not to get caught, to which Rose responded, "Oh, Jackie would never leave me. He loves me too much to leave me. Poor thing." After that, they shared a laugh and discussed their plans to meet later that evening. Filled with anger after eavesdropping on their conversations, I returned home. Upon my arrival, Rose inquired why I hadn't obtained the groceries as planned. I fabricated a story, claiming that I had received an urgent work call requiring me to return to the office immediately, and she accepted my explanation. By the time I reached home, she had already prepared herself, donning makeup and attire. She mentioned that she was meeting up with some of her girlfriends and expected to return before midnight. She kissed me on the cheek, seemingly sincere, and left. As soon as she departed, I reached out to one of my friends and disclosed the unsettling revelation I had stumbled upon. He offered to accompany me to the restaurant where Rose and her boyfriend were planning to meet. Upon our arrival at the restaurant, we witnessed a close scene. Rose was nestled up with her boyfriend, and he was attempting to feed her. I confidently approached her, making sure she noticed me, and promptly left the establishment. It all unfolded swiftly, and her startled expression indicated that she was taken aback to see me there alongside my friend. Without hesitation, I exited the restaurant. As soon as she registered my departure, she rose from her table and followed me. Initially, she attempted to feign innocence, but upon spotting my friend recording the scene, she grasped that she had been exposed. Just as I had anticipated, she concocted an excuse, asserting that she had met with her client and that the situation wasn't what it appeared to be. However, I remained silent in response. My friend and I drove back home, and Rose arrived shortly after our return. She entered the house and attempted to engage me in conversation, but I was focused on gathering my belongings. Since we were co-tenants in the apartment, I lacked the authority to evict her, even if I had desired to do so. Instead, I gathered my essentials and departed with my friend that night. Subsequent to that evening, Rose inundated me with numerous messages and incessant phone calls. After weeks of disregarding her calls, she dispatched voice notes laden with yet another string of falsehoods. She contended that her ex-boyfriend, with whom she had been unfaithful, wished to introduce her to a significant client, which prompted her to meet with him. She concocted a story about feeling cold due to the scanty attire she was wearing, and he tried to shield her, thus explaining their closeness. She likely believed I would accept this narrative. Unbeknownst to her, I had synchronized our phones, allowing me to continue monitoring their conversations to this day. Just a mere 3 days ago, I stumbled upon some recent revelations. It appears that Rose has been engaged in a contract for over 2 months now, and it comes with a handsome paycheck. Interestingly, her affair partner was an employee of the very brand she was endorsing, so there seems to be a kernel of truth in what she mentioned. Additionally, I've learned that they've been disparaging their own company's products. I suppose their romance was rekindled when he re-entered the picture. However, the crux of the matter lies in the fact that Rose is unquestionably not supposed to be entangled with any of the company's staff or involved in maligning the company's reputation. If the organization were to discover this, her contract would likely be terminated, and her reputation would be severely marred. Now, regarding the video that my friend captured, I haven't uploaded it online as initially intended. I have mixed emotions about it. Over the years, Rose has meticulously upheld an impeccable public image. Even though she occasionally faces online criticism from some vexatious fans, she hasn't encountered any significant issues with the brands she collaborates with. At this moment, I'm grappling with a maelstrom of emotions, and I'm contemplating how to hold her accountable for manipulating me in this manner. My intention is to disclose the conversations between Rose and her boyfriend, along with the video of their interactions. I hope no one will attempt to dissuade me from my course of action because my decision is resolute. Frequently, I find myself pondering why people choose to marry in the first place, especially given that numerous women don't appear to appreciate the sacrifices we men make for them. In Rose's case, I had envisioned building a family together, but it has become evident that she shares similarities with many other women who desire to have their cake and eat it too. Update 1. It's disheartening to realize through your feedback that influencers often have a high rate of infidelity. I chose to marry Rose because she seemed like the one for me. Beyond that, I fell in love with her character, not her profession. We spent almost 3 years dating, and I took my time to really get to know her before we tied the knot. At that point, I thought I had a deep understanding of who she was. She assured me that she had completely cut ties with her ex-boyfriend and would never entertain the idea of getting back with him, even if he were the last man on earth, her exact words. I suppose I was foolish to believe her words. My only consolation is that I took decisive action as soon as I began to suspect her. Perhaps if I had chosen to be the trusting husband who generously offered the benefit of the doubt, I'd still be stuck with her, naively helping her choose the perfect outfit for her girls' night out. Now, as for my plan for revenge, here's an update. I've shared the video of Rose and her affair partner, recorded at the restaurant, where they were intimately involved with each other. The video didn't sit well with her fans, who labeled her as a cheater. Additionally, I exposed the conversation between Rose and her lover, in which they criticized the brand they were endorsing. The good news is that the company she was associated with has terminated her contract, and her boyfriend has also lost his job. Moreover, Rose and her boyfriend had been saying derogatory things about a specific product she was promoting, alleging that the company was ripping people off with their subpar merchandise. Rose was compelled to issue a public apology, retracting everything she had said, and subsequently dealing with the repercussions from the company. When all of this unfolded, it not only tarnished her standing with the company that terminated her contract, but also had a domino effect on her other business deals. Her video and chat spread so rapidly that it forced other brands to sever ties with her. Consequently, she found herself with virtually nothing in the end. Beyond damaging her reputation as an influencer, headlines carried her name in relation to the video of her infidelity. It was quite satisfying when friends reached out, seeking confirmation about what they had seen online, and I confirmed its authenticity. Prior to sharing the video and conversation online, I sent it to her parents, formally signaling the end of our relationship. I also made some unflattering comments about Rose, characterizing her as a disgrace to herself and womanhood, and then blocked both their numbers to avoid their calls. 2 days ago, Rose caused a scene at my workplace, creating a disturbance. I informed security that I wouldn't meet with her, but she refused to leave. She wasn't even allowed into the building, yet she persisted in yelling my name and was eventually escorted off the premises. It was well-deserved. Since the evening I moved out of our home, I haven't encountered her in person. I've been keeping tabs on her via Facebook and Instagram to observe how everything has been unraveling for her. Thanks to everyone for your valuable suggestions and advice. I'll provide another update shortly. Update 2. It's been over a week since my last update, and I initially intended to wait until after the divorce was finalized to share more, but something significant occurred yesterday that I feel compelled to share. Rose discovered that I was the one who exposed the conversation and video online. Perhaps her parents informed her, but I can't say for certain. She was absolutely furious when she came to the house of a friend where I've been staying since leaving my apartment. Upon her arrival, she started shouting, accusing me of ruining her life and vowing to ruin mine in return. She uttered a barrage of hurtful statements, one of which was her expressed regret over marrying me. She claimed not to understand why she'd ever marry someone she considered a worthless individual. Her language grew increasingly impolite, and her anger flared when she noticed my friend recording her once more. Fueled by her rage, she grabbed a large stone from my friend's lawn and hurled it at the window where my friend was filming. The stone shattered the window, causing my friend's phone to tumble as he rushed to retract his hand inside the house. I was seething with anger and stepped outside to confront her. During our heated exchange, she retrieved a small penknife and proceeded to slash all 4 of my car's tires right in front of me. Afterward, she used the knife's tip to etch a lengthy mark from the front door to the back door, taunting me with, "Well, how do you like your new car?" Then she departed. I've never been so furious in my life. Presently, I can't move my car until I replace all 4 tires, and I can't drive it with a conspicuous scratch running along its length. My friend strongly advised me to take legal action against her, and he captured everything on record from inside the house. He also intends to sue her for the damage to his window, and he's quite serious about it. I've resolved to take legal action against Rose because I won't let her evade responsibility for the harm she caused. She will bear the full cost of replacing all the tires and restoring my car's paint. Regarding her social media presence, she's been notably silent lately. The frenzy surrounding her infidelity and disparagement of the brand she was endorsing has subsided. However, she hasn't been engaging in her usual Instagram live videos, reels, and other activities. I should also mention that many people unfollowed her primarily due to the video. Commenters remarked that they once envied our marriage and how she portrayed us as the perfect couple online. They found it hard to believe that she'd engage in such behavior in our first year of marriage, traditionally considered the honeymoon phase. Regardless, what's done is done. I won't tolerate infidelity just to maintain a facade of perfection in the eyes of strangers. I'll provide another update once everything has been resolved. Thank you for your time. Update 3. Hello everyone. It's been a while since my last update, and I wanted to wait until everything was settled before posting again. I appreciate your patience and your support for my legal action against Rose for the damages she caused. I'm thrilled to share this update because things have unfolded just as I hoped. My friend and I pursued legal action against Rose for the damages, and the court ruled in our favor. Can you believe that Rose actually tried to deny breaking my friend's window and slashing my tires? She even suggested that I was motivated by jealousy because she left me for her ex-boyfriend and that I had sabotaged my own car to frame her. She seemed to have forgotten that she was recorded by my friend, and that video held all the evidence we needed. When we informed the judge about the existence of this video, she requested to see it. Upon watching the footage and realizing that Rose had lied, the judge was visibly irritated. She asked for an estimate of the cost to replace all 4 tires and repair the damage to my car's paint, which I promptly provided, following your advice to get a comprehensive estimate. The judge then ordered Rose to cover these expenses. On the same day, she faced a case with my friend. The judge didn't allow her to lie or defend herself because she had viewed the video showing Rose's violent actions and the stone she threw at my friend's window. The ruling also favored my friend, leaving Rose quite upset. I couldn't help but relish in her frustration. I had expected her boyfriend to support her, but he was nowhere to be seen. 2 weeks after the court case, the divorce papers were ready, and I had my lawyer send them to her. She wasted no time in signing them, and we concluded everything. It was somewhat amusing to watch her try to play the victim in a situation of her own making. I'm pleased to announce that Rose is now officially a part of my past. Unlike her, who goes back on her word, I have no intention of having any further dealings with her. I've blocked her contact on all our shared social media platforms.